Hi, I'm Amy and this is A Star Reads, and I'm going to be starting a 24 and 48 hour readathon. So I have an extensive TBR this month with a lot of books that I really need to read, but I want to read some romance. And next week is my birthday. It's a 3-day weekend this weekend, and it's the month of Valentine's Day. So I've decided not to scrap my TBR, but to put it on hold for right now because I would like to read some romance. I would like to get into the spirit of the holiday. And I can because it's my birthday. So I can do whatever I want. We have Timeshare that we've had since I was very young, and I'm gonna go stay nearby, not too far away, but just get out of the house, go somewhere different, feel like I'm on a vacation, even if it's only for 48 hours. And I'm gonna enjoy part of my readathon there. So I'm really looking forward to that because I'm planning on doing some pampering. I'm gonna bring a face mask. They have a bathtub, which we don't have, so I'm excited that I'll be able to actually use a bathtub. I think I have bath bombs and stuff that I could try out. I just never get to. It is gonna be rainy here pretty much the whole weekend, so it's not even like I really wanna go outside much. It's just, there's not much going on out there. And so I have picked 8 possible romance books that either I have recently acquired, or there's a couple on here that have been on my TBR for a little while. I'm gonna have a very interesting way of determining what books and in what order I'm going to be reading them. So first let me show you the books, and then I will tell you my method of madness here. So first, I recently received The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood from Natalie. So thank you, Natalie. And this is one that I cannot wait to get to. It is a highly anticipated book, and it's like a Kylo Ren fan fiction sort of thing, but it's also about scientists, and hello, I'm a scientist. So like, that is exciting. I would love to get to this one and see what it's all about. Plus it's really well loved. So I have a good feeling that I'm gonna enjoy this one. So the next one, too excited. So the next possibility is Well Met by Jen DeLuca, which is one that I would love to get on this readathon because I do need to read this within the next year. It's one of my 5-star predictions. If you haven't checked out my 5-star prediction video, I will link it up here and down in the description box below. I'm hoping to get to this one because it's all about Renaissance fairs, and I believe this will be a 5-star. So fingers crossed this one comes up. Next is Red, White, and Royal Blue by McQuiston. This was also a gift from Myra. Thank you, Myra. And I got this recently. I'm very excited about this one. Mom actually just reread this book because she loved it so much. And I haven't read anything by McQuiston yet, so I'm really anticipating this particular book. I've been wanting to read it for a long time, so I'm excited. I hope I get this one. I hope I get all of them. So I don't even know why I'm hoping at this point because I would like to read all of them, but this one will be a fun one. Next is one that I've wanted to read for a very long time, has actually been on my physical TBR for a very long time, and I've never gotten around to reading it. And that is One to Watch by Staymon-London. I'm particularly interested to read this one right now because this is about a plus-size protagonist, and I'm a plus-size woman, and it would be really good for me, especially in the month of love, to read a book about a woman that represents me a little more. So I would love to get to this one. So if it comes up, that'll be great. Plus it'll be one that has been on my physical TBR that for a very long time that I should have read sooner that hasn't actually happened yet. Next is another one that's been on my physical TBR for a little while now, and that is Bridgerton, The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. And the reason I put this on here because this isn't maybe as anticipated as some of these other ones. Even though it's a little chunkier, it looks like it would read pretty quickly. And I do want to watch the series. So many people loved the series so long ago, and I have never had a chance to watch it. So I would like to read this. I think it would be fun to read a historical romance because I do like that kind of a setting. Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I bought this just recently, and I have wanted to get into the Brown Sister trilogy for a very long time now, and it's gonna finally happen at some point because I have the first book. I'm just so excited about this series. I can't wait to see how Talia Hibbert handles all the representation in these books because I heard that is what's so astounding about these books. But then also, I just can't wait to see what the romance is about because these are very popular. So will I love them as much as everybody else does? And I know there are some people that don't love them. So I'm kind of like, will I love them or will I be like the people who are not crazy about them? And finally, the last one that I'm going to show you is another one I received as a gift recently. And that's the Bromance Book Club by Lyssa K. Adams. And I got this one from Paige, from Pages with Paige. And I'm so excited about this series. I have wanted to read this series for a while. I keep hearing about it and it just sounds like such a fun concept. You know, these men that their relationships aren't quite working out the way they would like it to. So they create a book club where they read romantic novels and try to save their marriages. Like, that's such a fun idea. And I can't wait to get into this series. I do know a lot of people that love this one as well and have been wanting me to get into it. So I'm hoping that I get into it. We'll see how things go. So the way that I'm going to be determining what books I read and what order I want to read them in is by using a death roll. And this is a new concept that I had never heard of before, but I found this on Paige from Pages with Paige's channel. Ash, her partner, I guess, had introduced her to this concept of a death roll. And it sounds crazy and fun, but it was just an interesting idea. And I thought that I would like to try it out for this 24 and 48 hour readathon. And so if you haven't checked out Paige's channel, go check out her death roll videos. I will link them down in the description box below. So far, I've seen her use it twice. The way that this death roll works is that you have some kind of token. I'm going to be using my coin that I got from my owl crate a little while ago. This is my heads or tail coin. And you put all the books out that you're planning on reading, and you start on one of the books and you move in the same order every time. And you use a random number generator to eliminate books. So you start with 1,000 and you're going to be using 1 to 1,000 and it'll randomly generate a number. Say it randomly generates 250 out of 1 to 1,000. Then you move the coin over to the next book and you change the random number generator to be 1 through 250. You randomly generate and you move the coin over. Say that during that 1 to 250, I got 50 and I moved the coin over. Then I would change the random number generator to 1 to 50, and you keep moving the coin throughout the books until you hit the number 1, like until you've actually generated the number 1 at some point. And once you've generated the number 1, the book that the coin is sitting on is a book that's going to be eliminated. Then you pull that book out and you start over again, and you go to the next book that was next to the eliminated book, and you start from 1 to 1,000 again, and you go around doing it over and over and over again. And eventually you'll eliminate all the books, and the last book standing is the book you start reading first. So you will see this, and hopefully it'll be a lot more clear in my very first death roll. And I will be showing you that before I start my 24 and 48 hour readathon, obviously, because you need to see what book I picked to start with. I'm going to be starting my readathon tonight at 10 p.m. It's way earlier than that, but I wanted to film while I still had some daylight and do my first roll while there was still lighting. So I will be starting tonight, but I know what book I'm starting with, and I'm going to show you that now. So as you saw, I picked Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I'm very, very excited about this. It's kind of a long one. It's 439 pages. So I'm hoping that I just don't read this the whole weekend. But, you know, it's fairly decent sized writing, you know, big writing. I'm hoping I'll get through it quickly and then I can pick another book to be able to read. I can't wait to see what all the hype about is, because I've heard so many people who have enjoyed this book. Definitely have heard a few reviews that weren't as spectacular, but for the most part, I think people tend to like this and like Casey McQuiston's writing. I will be bringing back my little Mickey timer thing. So this is going to be counting down for me. So once I push play, I'll show you an example now. Once I push play, it starts counting down, and this is 23 hours and 59 minutes, and it'll count down until I get to 0 minutes, and hopefully I do my whole 24 hours this time and make it through my 24 and 48. That will be the way that I keep track. So every time that I want to pause and I'm not reading, I'll pause it, and it pauses, it stops blinking, which means that it's paused, and then I can then start it again when I start reading again. One of the things I forgot to mention is that I am going to be listening to an audiobook while I do my 24 and 48 hour readathon, meaning like if I go somewhere to pick up breakfast or, need time away from physically reading, I will be listening to an audiobook as well. But I'm not going to be doing the death roll for my audiobook. I'm just going to be listening to The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. So I've actually been hearing a lot of things about this romance writer recently, especially from people who like her books but don't like sports. And they're like, I don't like sports, but I really love her writing and I love these books. And I like sports. So I'm like, well, if people who don't like sports love her books, I think that I would probably really love her books because I actually like the subject matter as well. So I'm starting it with The Wall of Winnipeg and Me because I was able to get it on Scribd, and I just want to try this author out. So I'm going to try this book because it's one of the higher rated books, and we're going to see how it goes. And I'll tell you if I'll be reading more Mariana Zapata after I get into this. And, granted, I will probably be listening to audiobooks if I go drive somewhere to pick something up or get a meal, or if I feel like taking a walk when the weather gets a little bit better. And this is not going to be my priority. My priority is going to be the physical books I read, but I wanted to have an audiobook going while I was doing this to continue on the romance. Okay, so it's the morning, it's about a little after 8:30, and I have read about just a little over 2.5 hours. So I'm on page 68, and that's not very far. But what I'm noticing about Casey McQuiston's writing is that there's a lot packed into a small space. Like, she's very quick with the jokes. There's a lot of abbreviations of certain things that are pop culture references. And then the jokes, I have to kind of take a moment sometimes and reread what I just read. And that's happened a lot with this because I'm not quite used to Casey McQuiston's writing style yet. And this is a very different writing style than what I've been reading lately. I don't skim, and so I always have to go back and understand everything, which makes it hard on time-wise. I'm trying to get through this quickly. It's really enjoyable so far. I don't know how much I like the main character at this point, but I can see that he'll probably grow on me. In the very beginning, he seems like a little stuck-up pain in the butt, but I think that that'll change as we go along. I think I like the writing style. We'll see as we go further along, and of course the more I get into a book, the easier it is for me to get a good clip, a good pace. And I think last night, I started reading at 10 and I was exhausted by the time it was midnight, so it was also probably having had a long day and then just being tired. My brain is a little more fresh this morning, so hopefully I'll make some good progress this morning. Okay, so it's just about 11 o'clock. I'm getting ready to go to Costco. Okay, I'm not. I'm going to get ready to go to Costco. I just passed the 20 hours remaining mark, so 19 hours and 57 minutes remaining, which means that I'm about 4 hours in, and so I'm not the fastest reader, but that's okay because I am really having a fun time with this, and it's starting to get steamy and fun, and I'm really starting to like the main characters. I'm starting to like Alex more. He was the one I was worried about because I kind of liked Henry from the very beginning. I just thought he was misunderstood, but Alex was a little bit of a pain, but I'm starting to like him more. So I'm having just fun. It's just a fun one. And I can tell that this is exactly what I needed this weekend. I needed some romance in my life, and I needed a chance to just relax and decompress. And actually this is working out really well because I'm not thinking about school, I'm not thinking about work, I'm not thinking about all the things that I typically think about. And so it's fun for me to just take this time. So I'm going to get dressed and go to Costco. I have like 11 minutes of Mari and the Night Brothers left, but then after that, I will start my audiobook, Bromance. And I'm excited about that one. And then I'll come home and do some more reading, because that's what this weekend's all about. I do have to pack up some things to go to the timeshare this evening and do a few other things before I leave the house today, but just going to take one thing at a time and keep reading this one, because this is so much fun. So much fun. Okay, so I just got home from shopping, and I did end up starting The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. And so far, we're meeting the main character. Oh, what is her name? I don't know her name. But I know Aiden is the Wall of Winnipeg. He's this football player that she is a personal assistant for. And she mostly does cooking for him. And she's really trying to do this job because it pays well until she can get on her own feet and own her own business. She wants to own a graphic design business. So she's frustrated with this guy because he's basically a guy with no personality. All he cares about is football. After working for him for 2 years, she just has never been able to get him to even smile. Despite the fact that she spends so much time with him every day, their relationship has been very business and nothing else. And it's not, she had a crush on him at one point, but she just wanted him to smile and just wants him to be friendly. And he's just never been that way. He's a very serious person, and all he really focuses on is football. At least that's all she really knows about him. She doesn't know much about him. And so she's getting ready to quit her job because she wants to go off and start her own business. And that's kind of where I'm at. So it sounds fun because it's he's a really grumpy person, and she's got the hots for him because he's super attractive. But aside from that, she's just ready for a change. The writing style is easy to get into. It's like a 15.5-hour audiobook. So I'm definitely not going to be getting this audiobook done during this vlog, but I can make some progress on it. And I just finished Mari and the Night Brothers, so I needed a new audiobook anyways. So now I'm listening to this one, and I can't wait to see where it goes. It's going to be a fun one. I think I like the writing style so far. So I am here and I'm all checked in. I have this whole unit completely to myself, which is nice. It's relaxing and it's nice to have some space. But it was the only thing that was available because it's a 3-day weekend. So, I almost feel guilty having this whole place to myself, but not too guilty. So I have another 16 hours and 53 minutes to go. I was listening to The Wall of Winnipeg while I was driving here, and there's still a lot of setup. So we're still working through what's going on before we see any kind of connection with the two main characters. He's still the grump and she is leaving her job. So we're gonna see what happens because of that. But I am making progress in this. Not as much as I would like to. I'm not the fastest of readers, but I'm having a lot of fun reading this. We're at 160 and things are starting to pick up a little bit between our two main characters. We're just kind of moving along in the beginning of what's happening with these two characters. And it's cute, it's sexy. I'm just curious to see where it's gonna go though, because both of these guys are in positions where they're so heavily scrutinized by their countries that I just don't see where this can go. I don't see it. But I'll be interested to see what we find out while reading this book. I checked out the bathtub and it's huge and I'm excited about that. So I'll probably take a bath at some point. I brought some bath salts and I'm just gonna relax, and I'll probably read out on the patio because it's warm in here. I turned the heater down a little bit because it feels kind of warm in here. It is chilly outside though, so I don't know how long I'll last, but I might go out there for a little while and then I will update you when I have a little more to say. Okay, so it is 9 p.m. and I've got 2 hours and 10 minutes left that I need to read for today. Actually, would have been that I need to read that before 10. So I guess I'm a little behind. I'm just like exactly halfway through Red, White, and Royal Blue. Really loving this. We're getting to a point where real feelings are starting to happen. And so it's just sweet, but funny and raw. There's a raw quality to this, which I really am enjoying. You know, it's not just simple, fun romance. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of factors. There's a lot of politics, but it is a really enjoyable read. And I'm enjoying the romance between the two main characters. I'm enjoying getting to know them better. And so there's a lot about this that I'm loving. I just got finished taking a lovely bath. And while I was doing that, I was listening to The Wall of Winnipeg. And I'm starting to see why this book is so long, because one of the things that's bothering me a little bit is that while dialogue is happening in the story, so like I'm listening to the audiobook, so the character is talking and then she has so much inner monologue in between each line of dialogue. Like I prefer, like, tell me the story of what's going on between the two people before or after the dialogue, but I'd rather have the dialogue be complete because it's like sentence from one person, a lot of inner monologue, a lot of saying this, a lot of saying that, a lot of comments on this, a lot of comments on that, response. Then in a reaction to the response and blah, 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 paragraph later, she responds. Like, or she counts down because she's trying to keep her patience. And so moments take pages to go through in this book. And I don't know if I like that. It might be bothering me. I mean, I like to think a lot too, and I probably overthink things, but this character, like, I need things to happen. I need her to take some action or something, because she's just driving me insane with how much, well, it's just, I guess in general, it's just how little is happening in this book so far. And it feels like there is so much inner dialogue. And maybe the problem with that is that we don't have a dual perspective here. And the main character's name is Vanessa. If we're getting Vanessa's perspective and Aiden's perspective, we wouldn't need quite as much of her interpreting everything he's doing, saying, things she knows about him. Like, we're getting so much from her that we get nothing from him. Like, you don't know anything about this guy. And so it makes him kind of uninteresting. You're kind of like, yeah, I don't see why he would be appealing at this point. I think the biggest problem at the moment that I'm having, though, is that, like, dialogue takes 20 pages. Spoken sentence, paragraph, spoken sentence, paragraph. Like, I don't hate it, and I'll continue listening to it, but I'm wondering, would I enjoy it more if I was physically reading it? Like, is this not a good choice for audiobook? I can't even call this book a slow burn at this point because, like, it's very slow. There's no burning at all. The moments take so long in this that I'm like, we're never going to move forward to another day even. Like, it just... just gonna be stuck in this moment forever. I'm never gonna find out what's happening. So yeah, I guess I'm not responding as well to this particular romance as I would have liked at the moment. But I mean, I was enjoying it in the beginning, so let's just continue on and see how it goes. Okay, it's getting good. I mean, this is good, but it's this is a funny book. Okay, so it's midnight and I have actually made it past 12 hours. So I am just over what I need to be at. And I'm getting tired. But yeah. I'm loving this. 292 pages in. So it's gonna take me a little bit longer, but hopefully not too long. I feel like I'm in a good groove. And I will be able to pick another book. I don't know if I'll be able to finish another book in this 24 and 48 hour vlog, but I can at least start another book and get a few hours working on that. So I am going to finish this. I'm gonna probably head to sleep soon. And I may read a little bit more, but I don't know how much more because I'm getting pretty tired. But yeah, this is just, you know, it's a nice, it's romantic. It's just so sweet. It's exactly what I wanted this weekend. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. Okay, so it is currently 9:40 a.m. I'm down to 8 hours and 14 minutes left because I didn't go to bed last night. No, that's wrong. I did go to bed last night. I didn't go to bed when I said I was going to go to bed last night. I went to bed around 2. And then I woke up this morning at 7 something. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you, Amy? You could have slept. But I couldn't sleep. So one of the problems, it's not a problem, but I'm a little sensitive to light. So if there's enough light coming through in the morning that it like hits my eyes or something like that, I'll wake up. And I don't know, I haven't been sleeping quite as well as I usually do lately. So I don't know why, life is good. But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. I have just finished Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is a 5-star read. It's wonderful. I loved it. It really is all about the feelings and the emotions conveyed in this. I think Casey McQuiston is an incredible emotion portrayer, just conveyor. Casey McQuiston did an amazing job getting to the depths of some of these emotions that I'm like, I've never felt these kind of emotions for people before. And just, it was so beautiful. It was so stunning. And raw was the word that I liked about this relationship that I used yesterday, that I'm like, there's a raw, vulnerable element of love and romance. And I just love it. I probably will never have a romance like this. I've had romances, but they've never been this beautiful. Obviously, it's a book, so you know you can create whatever you want on a book. But yeah, it was just so beautiful. It makes it seem like, wow, anything less than this is is it worth it? It was so interesting. It was very political in a lot of ways, which is something that I don't know if I would have enjoyed that typically, but I really enjoyed it in this. It made the stakes really high. So there were like a lot of kind of stressful moments in this book. Your heart is pounding, you're hoping things come out right for everyone in the end, and it was exciting. It was exciting. It was fun. It was very emotional. It was beautiful, and I'm a big fan. So I can't wait to read One Last Stop. It's only 418 pages. For some reason, I thought it was 440 because it like goes to 440 here, but that includes an excerpt from One Last Stop. So it actually only took me like 15 hours and 45 minutes to complete. Although I should say it was definitely not 15 hours and 45 minutes because I was listening to The Wall of Winnipeg and Me for part of the time that I was counting down. And I'm glad that I gave into the hype because this is a very well-loved book and I loved it. Okay, so now I'm gonna pick one more book, and I probably won't be able to get this one finished within the 8 hours and 14 minutes that I have left, especially because I'm gonna go get breakfast, and while I'm driving, I'll be listening to The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and you know, I may take breaks here and there to make lunch and stuff and listen to the audiobook, but I'll try and read as much as I can of the next romance that I pick. as you saw, I got One to Watch by Staymon-London, and I'm actually really excited about this one because for one, it's plus size representation, which represents me. Also, I'm excited that I read one of my brand new books that I recently got, but I'm also reading one of the books that's been on my TBR for a very long time, my physical TBR, because I've had this book for quite a while hoping to get to it and just never did. So now I'm gonna get to it, and it is, I think a little over 400 pages, so it's not gonna be a quick read, but I'm gonna make a really good dent in this. And also, I only have eaten grapes this morning, so I'm really hungry and I would love to have some coffee. See, my eyes are saying, you did not get enough sleep last night, Amy. And so I'm gonna go hit up Starbucks. My aunt gave me a $15 gift card for Christmas for Starbucks and I've never had a chance to use it, so I'm gonna do that and get a coffee, get something to eat, and then sit and start reading my book. And just kind of enjoy a different atmosphere because I've been enjoying my little secluded environment here. It's too cold to sit out on the patio and read out there. Otherwise, that would be nice. But it's chilly. It's very chilly this morning. Oh yeah, and the one other thing I need to do before I come back from the bookshop is that I have to head home really briefly to pick up a shirt because, you know, I packed all my books, I packed my computer stuff, I packed a bunch of cardigans, I packed a lot of food, I even packed pampering stuff. I did a face mask last night. It was an algae face mask, and that's probably why my face is kind of blotchy today. But I packed everything I could possibly need except any shirts. I mean, I have this one, but that's the one I wore. I was like looking for my pajama shirts, and I was like, I didn't bring any shirts, like any shirts at all. So it just shows you how much I needed this weekend away because my brain is completely dead. So I do need to stop at home and pick up at least a shirt, but home is not far, so it'll just be like a quick little trip, and then I'll be back here to my relaxation place, and it should be fun. So it's 2:30, I'm back from my coffee shop outing, and it was really nice. I got a pistachio latte and then the sausage and egg sandwich. And I have 6 hours left, so I can definitely get that done before 10, right? Yeah, I can get that done before 10. So I'm gonna get my 6 hours done. I did listen to The Wall of Winnipeg for a while in the car, and still having some of the same issues. The inner monologue is tedious, and the conversations between the two main characters, I just want them to have the conversation. But something finally has happened, so I can see where this story is going now, and I'm not ready to DNF it yet because, like I said, it takes me a lot to DNF a book, so I'm gonna give it time. But at this point, this book is probably around a 2-star, or maybe a 1.75. It's like hovering because I'm still listening to it, so I haven't quite given up on it. So I must like it well enough that I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm not ready to give up yet. I'm gonna keep trying. I know so many people love it, right? I just think it needs like a heavy editing hand. Really heavy. I'm bummed. I'm bummed about how I'm feeling about that book because I know that this author has become a very popular author recently, or at least one that I've heard about a lot recently. And on Goodreads, the rating is like 4.3 with 100 and something thousand reviews. So people generally like it, I think. I don't know. And then while I was at the coffee shop, I started One to Watch. I'm about 40 pages in, probably read it for like an hour or so. And I'm enjoying it so far. So far, I haven't got very far yet. There's a lot of like social media and like transcripts, text transcripts, blog posts, things like that. So it's got an interesting format to it. So far, I'm interested to get to know the main character more. I feel for her because I understand the unrequited love element. I probably wouldn't have handled the beginning situation the same way she would have handled it, but that's just me. I know that it's difficult with unrequited love because people kind of lose themselves in the feelings that they have about someone else that have never been satisfied, but I still wouldn't have handled myself the way she did. So that's a bit of a bummer, but I understand where some of her feelings and emotions are coming from. So it's like, it's difficult because she's hitting on some things that I can really understand as a plus size woman and how we relate to men. Not all of us, some of us, because obviously my experience is my own individual experience. She's criticized the show and it's become like viral. And I have a feeling this is when they're gonna ask her to be on the show because I know that that's what this is about. So I haven't quite got there yet, but it's gonna be soon. And then I look forward to hearing her experiences on a show like that, because I'll be honest, I would never go on a bachelor type show, a romance type show, a dating kind of show, even though, you know, I know that they're reality, but they're kind of staged in a lot of ways. But I would never put myself on something like that because I see what kind of women and kind of men tend to be on those types of shows. And I understand where all her thoughts and her opinions and her angry, vitriolic rant come from, because it is frustrating to see this concept of reality television where it's not realistic whatsoever. Her doing this show is like what I would consider my worst nightmare. So like, I'm sure this will be very painful. I imagine in a lot of ways, this will be very painful because I'm like, oh no, I would never do that. So we'll see. I'm gonna see where it goes. I just had lunch, so I'm gonna continue on reading and can't wait to find out what happens. Okay, I'm about 80 pages in and we're just about to start meeting the men on the show. And like at one point they're going to be, and this hasn't happened yet, but they're going to be giving their impressions on her. And then of course we've already seen some of the media's feelings, and then of course trolls' opinions about her being on the show. I said earlier that this is like a horrible nightmare for me. The reason it's so uncomfortable and distressing is I've been plus size for most of my life. So I'm used to the way society looks at me. I'm used to the way society treats me. And I cannot imagine putting myself and my physicality, like not just my brains, my thoughts, the things I'm really good at out there. It's you're putting your physical body out there to be assessed. Because these dating shows, you know, they're all about looks and attraction and things. They're not about the genuineness of a person. Maybe there have been instances where that has happened, but if we're honest with ourselves, these kind of dating shows are more about first impressions and hot people getting together and what, you know, judging the people that you see on the screen and stuff like that. And so you know that she's going on this show knowing that the first thing she's going to be judged on is her body. And of course, the first thing these 25 men that are coming on this show is going to think about is, I was not expecting this, and what are their impressions going to be? And I just cringe to think of what the reactions are going to be. I'm my own worst critic. I already know what kind of pressures I put on myself physically when it comes to how I appear to the outside world. I can't even imagine what it would be like to do this. And so that's what I mean by this would be my worst nightmare. And granted, it's not very feminist, you know, like these kind of dating shows, but these types of reality shows are really popular. And the idea that you could find the love of your life on a show like this is an idea that people want to watch, understandably, because it's romantic and it's fun and it's interesting and it's quirky and it's stupid, but people love it. And like, of course, seeing the trollish comments that people say about plus size women, how horrible people are. Like, I know people are horrible to all types of people, and that there's always going to be people saying horrible things. But man, let me tell you how hard it is to read some of these comments, and having had those same insecurities, this book hits hard. It hits hard because it hits close to home. And so I'm like sweating while I'm reading this. But I just wanted to, give you a little perspective from someone who is a plus size and reading a book about a plus size woman putting herself out there in a way that, I don't know. Okay, so I want to do a quick check-in because I have 2 hours and 49 minutes left, and I'm at page 158, so I'm making fairly good progress. It's much more simplistic, so I can't say like the writing is so beautiful. It's a lot more dialogue or social media posts or her own thinking about and going through all the things that she's dealing with in this whole situation. But the thing I can say about this is like, it's hitting all my insecurities big time, like, or all of what in my life I've had as insecurities being a plus size woman and dating, and like it's hitting all of them. So this author and I seem to at least have felt some of the same insecurities because she is putting all of them in this book. And so it's very uncomfortable, very, very uncomfortable, but interesting. And sometimes it feels nice to not feel like you're alone in those kind of situations, insecurities and stuff like that. And I think this got fairly mixed reviews. Some people really enjoyed it, but some people didn't like it. And I know that some plus size people felt like they couldn't relate to this character or the way things were portrayed in here at all. Interested to continue on and see where this goes and see what the author is going to throw at us next, because it's so cringy at times. So I just got to keep reading because it's 6:39 and I want to make sure I at least finish my 24 and 48 hours before 10. If I decide to continue reading after 10, that's one thing, but I would like to get my readathon done on time. I finished my 24 and 48 hours, and it is 9:35, so I finished in time. And yeah, I am making good progress in my third book. Well, my third book because I'm still listening to The Wall of Winnipeg. So I'm considering that my second book. But yeah, look at that. I'm 249 pages in, and I'm really enjoying this. I swear, this author is in my head, or she wrote from my head. So like my own brain insecurities and being a plus size woman. I know this isn't going to be like anybody else's experience, but when it comes to relationships, this woman was in my head. Aside from that, there are elements to this that are ridiculous because it's like a Bachelor type show. There's a lot of insta love sort of stuff that goes on, and it feels ridiculous. But I think that that's true to that reality type style show. So like if she didn't have that in this book, it would be weird because that is what you see on those kind of shows. So like it's like awkward because it's ridiculous and it's not believable, but at the same time, if she didn't have that, I wouldn't believe it, because that's what this book is supposed to be about. So yeah, it's fun. It's good fun. And I'm going to keep reading because I still have time tonight. And I know that I'm done with my 24 and 48 hour readathon, but I'm having a hard time putting it down at this point. So going to continue on. Also, I just want to point out that I just got finished with the section where they're in Morocco, in Marrakesh, and there was a couple of booktubers who did have some issues with the way that those scenes were handled, I think towards the beginning, with some of the comments that were made. I don't necessarily know that my perspective will make a difference here as to knowing what's appropriate and what's inappropriate, so I'm gonna defer you to Rana Najjar's video. I'm gonna link it down in the description box below. She talks about a couple of things that were said in this and how that was either inaccurate or just not a very good a way of putting things. And so, like I said, I'll defer to her video. I just remember that was one of the biggest issues she had with this book when she was reading it. I don't know if she liked it or not. I can't remember at this point because I watched her review quite a while ago, but she was really upset about the parts in this that were representing Morocco. I just wanted to point that out and let you know that. So you can go check out Rana's video and see what she has to say about it. So as it turns out, I actually stayed up till like 3 a.m. finishing One to Watch by Kate Staymon-London. And yeah, I couldn't put it down. I was enjoying myself. I was enjoying so much about the characters in this and what this meant for me as a plus size woman who's had very similar thoughts and feelings as our main character here. Now, I know that this isn't going to represent everybody, and I know I mentioned that a few times, but I think that's important because some of the reviews that I saw of this were that people were disappointed in the negative things that were mentioned in this book. But I can say that for me, I thought that this was uncanny. It was uncanny in the thoughts and some of the sentences that the author put in here, because I've had those exact thoughts many, many times. And I felt like it represented my struggles in relationships as a plus size woman very well. So I got from this what I needed to. It was like, I don't even need to go to therapy now. I can just read, just read this book. just yeah, TMI. Anyways, so I'm going to give this 4.5 stars. And the reason I'm giving it that as opposed to 5 stars is that I had just finished reading Red, White, and Royal Blue. And as much as this may have actually pertained to me and my experience, Red, White, and Royal Blue was just such a well done book. The writing was beautiful. The writing was just spectacular. Like, that book, I felt that the writing was incredible. I felt that the emotions conveyed in that one were really just, it was so well done. Like, so if I hadn't read these back to back, I might have given this one a 5 stars, even though I know that there are issues with this. The representation isn't always perfect. You know, like when it comes to plus size, I feel like it works for me, but as far as the other representation, like diversity, it wasn't perfect. Sometimes it felt a little, it didn't feel too forced, but it felt like, you know, let's check off some of those boxes. But for me, this was very compelling and important, and I did enjoy the characters. I did enjoy the story itself. The writing style just was not quite as beautiful, and I don't know, just didn't quite hit Red, White, and Royal Blue status for me. So that's the reason why I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars. But despite that, it still is a very good book, and I really, really enjoyed it. I know that there are some problems, and I kind of mentioned them a little bit in the video, but for what I was looking for, this hit the spot. Also, I did continue listening to The Wall of Winnipeg. It took me a few days to get through that, but I really just wanted to get through it quickly to finally see what was going to happen and see if there was anything that was going to happen. And I'm really disappointed to say that this just didn't work for me. And I know that it's a really popular book, and I know that Mariana Zapata is very popular among her fans. And that's why I was just really bummed out, because I gave this a 2.5 stars. And all the issues that I had mentioned in the video were true. It got a little better, but like the first kiss wasn't until like 80% in. And then the smut itself didn't actually happen until, so this is a 15.5-hour audiobook. It didn't actually happen until there was like 27 minutes left of the audiobook, which, you know, slow burns can be fine, but this was a little too slow for me because there wasn't enough buildup. You know, like there was buildup, but I wanted a little more of the tension, and I didn't feel the tension quite as much as I have felt amazing tension in other romance novels. And the other thing is that when we actually got to the smut, it just wasn't smut that was very attractive to me. Like it didn't. I think everybody has their own personal taste when it comes to things like that. I just didn't feel like it just, I don't know how to explain it without, you know, it's sex. So like, I don't know how to explain it in a way that portrays why this didn't work for me as well as maybe other sex scenes would have worked. And that is awkward, but it's the reality of it. It's just, you know, you're building up and you're waiting for so long. It's such a slow burn. And then when we get to the sex scenes in this, I'm just kind of like, oh, no, that wasn't that sexy. Or it just wasn't it didn't appeal to me as much. And so, yeah, it was a bummer. It was a bummer. I was hoping to really like this author. I will probably try one of her other works at some point in the future. I'm not rushing to do it, but it'll happen because, you know, I like to be able to give somebody a second chance. But it's very possible that this author's just not for me, and that's okay. I did like Aiden, the main character, the male main character. I wish the whole book was from his perspective, to be honest, instead of from the female's perspective. Or at least that it would have been a dual perspective, because I didn't get nearly enough from his character, and his character was the one I really enjoyed. So there was a lot of backstory that I felt like the threads got lost. And so it's like she mentions all this backstory to try to get you to understand the characters, but I didn't feel like it was always carried throughout the whole story in a way that there was no completion of certain storylines, or there was no resolution to certain things. And so it made the backstory feel like I don't need that. Like, I don't need that. Just give me the relationship between Aiden and Vanessa, and I would only need that. I don't need to hear about her life story, her backstory, anything. We hear a lot about that. At times it felt a little like filler, like because it didn't play into the story as much as I would have liked for it to. So all in all, it wasn't horrible. I had a fun time reading it. 2.5 is not bad for me. Anything in a 2-star range is like I liked it. I didn't love it. 1 star is I didn't like it at all. So 2.5 I felt like was good enough that I had fun with my overall experience, but I was in danger of DNFing this at one point, and I'm glad that I continued on because it did redeem itself a little bit, but it just wasn't for me. That was my experience though. I read 3 books during this vlog. I was really excited about it because they were all over 400 pages. So, you know, I felt pretty accomplished. So like, considering I stopped reading all the other books I was supposed to be reading, at least I felt I found success in this. And the problem with it is that now all I want to do is read romances. Like, I don't want to do anything else at all. I just want to read romances all day, every day. I don't want to do school anymore. I don't want to read any other books. I just want to read romances. I'm not, but I want to. Anyways, let me know in the comment section down below, what is your favorite romance? What is the romance that you read that you loved above all other romances? And I would like to know so that I can read it at some point. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what other romantic adventures I get into in the future. I don't know that I'll be able to do something like this again anytime soon, but fingers crossed that I can make some romances work into my TBR soon, because I'm just craving the romance. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.